Hello and welcome back to the ministry. This is Taj McCameron, and today we are talking about the spirit of fear. I told y'all yesterday I was going to talk about the spirit of fear and what the spirit of fear is doing right now. A little bit of the recap. Right now, we are in a season where God is preparing to release a ton of blessings into our lives. But I'm about to put you up on some game that the enemy is doing in order to prevent you from walking into the blessings in which he has for you. Okay? How is he doing this? I've said it before and I'm going to say it again. He uses our eyes, nose, mouth, ears, hands. Mentally, emotionally, physically, spiritually, socially. His MO don't change. But what has been happening is he's been subtly operating in a spirit of intimidation that comes from Jezebel. And it's very subtle this season. It's not what he's been doing before because of the fact that we're in a different season. So the effects are not as intense as they have been. But I need you to still focus, because the subtlety is what the enemy is looking at to create a small fox, a tear, to come in and bring about confusion, because he wedged himself in, slithered in like a snake. The mice that crawl through holes. Think about that. And that wasn't even, that was bonus. I wasn't even going to talk about that part. He's in that element in this season. And because he's in that element in this season, you've got to be aware of the fact that as you're elevating, there are subtle, I told you this in our previous word, negative compliments. And it's funny, I was looking at a comedian the other day. My dad was watching something on television, and he was talking about how you ever have that relative that compliments you with a negative compliment. The whole compliment be good until they get to that one part, which is literally a derogatory statement against you. The people that come into your life to gaslight you. This is what the enemy is doing, and he's doing it subtly. It's so subtle that if you aren't looking for it, you will miss it. Okay? Next, where are you being attacked? A lot of us have been attacked in our minds in relation to our kingdom marriage. Whoever has verbally opened their mouth about their kingdom marriage to people that you opened it up to have started to speak against it. And I'm seeing subtle visual cues around me that speak against it. For instance, my dad's watching Divorce Court 24/7 every day. I'm like, why are you watching Divorce Court? Why are you watching cheating couples? Why are you watching cheaters? Why are you watching this? I never actually asked him that, but I'm thinking to myself, why are you watching that? Ain't nothing but the enemy, because the enemy is like, see, he trying to subtly keep this in the back of your head because you're about to walk into your marriage season. Yesterday, it's something very specific that I have a trigger point with. And the enemy's been trying to bring up stuff associated to that thing with my God-ordained spouse by trying to use that to point at something that I went through with my ex. See how subtly twisted that is? Pay close attention. Next, some of y'all got businesses that you're supposed to be working on right now. And you're supposed to be in a specific posture in relation to these businesses. And because of that, that's the area that you are being subtly hit in. It's not a direct hit, it's a subtle hit. You're supposed to be a kingdom wealth financier, but none of y'all got no money. Which brings about the spirit of imposter syndrome when you want to talk about money, because it's a spirit of intimidation that comes over you. You can't talk about that if you don't have no money. I can talk about what I went through in order to prevent somebody else from going through that, can't I? Oh, really? But the enemy wants you to halt talking about it at all. Next, stability. Some of y'all have been in unstable living environments for the longest period of time. Months, years. For me, it's been almost 2 decades. 2 decades? Yeah. And because of this, you actually are supposed to be in real estate. You're called to real estate. You're called to help people gain sustainability in their living situations. You're called to help people with their sustainability in living environments. But if you can't get stable, hindrance. Slight element of intimidation. How can you talk about that? How can you build a business on that? How can you authentically be talking about that if you're not there, though? Because I'm called to it. Those of y'all, let's go back to the marriage thing. Some of y'all are called to marriage and marriage ministries. But all y'all relationships seem to have gone straight to hell. Why? Because there was something going on in your family lineages with a generational curse that was trying to break marriages. That's why you are called to marriage ministries. Some of y'all are called to family ministries and family and marriage ministries because there are certain things that have been on the bloodline in relation to children. Birthing. It's been something in your way spiritually to be able to birth something because something happened in your family line that somebody sold something to the spirit of Moloch, that all the babies are either not born or they die prematurely. Because you're called to family. You're called to build and birth things perpetually. You're being fought in that area. What else? Visibility. There's things that you've been working on for the longest period of time. Every time you get close to that thing coming to manifestation, it's like you cannot get it to come to visibility. You can't get no eyes on it. You can't get no audience for it. You can't get, because you're called to be visible. But the enemy is preventing you from becoming visible because the impact that your voice has. Some of y'all are called to be musicians and sing. Every time you get ready to sing and you sing your heart out, you lose your voice within 24 hours. You keep losing your voice in relation to singing. It's a spirit of fear and intimidation to try and prevent you from singing, doing what you're called to do. Let's go back to the marriage thing. You've been having a spirit of intimidation come against you in relation to the marriage in which you're called to walk into. Fear. You've been dealing with a level of fear. God did not give you a spirit of fear. He gave you power, love, and a sound mind. And because of this, the enemy tries to subtly take you out. Eyes, ears, nose, mouth, hands, mentally, emotionally, physically, spiritually, socially. And I told y'all before what the connections were between each of those. With that being said, y'all are dealing with like warfare, spiritual warfare against that thing. And the thing about it is, I told you in the complacency word, that what the enemy has been trying to do is keep you complacent, going in the same circles, trying to carry the same weights, make you feel like you're doing a bunch of stuff. Well, I'm doing in relation to the thing God's called me to do. I'm doing this. I'm touching here. I'm touching there. And God's like, I need you to, one, be consistent. But then you're like, I'm being consistent. I'm touching everything. And he's like, no, I need you to be consistent in that one thing. Focus on that one thing. Don't ever let that one thing go. Then hit as I tell you the other things. And I will grow. I remember years ago, I used to listen to some stuff that Lisa Nichols talked about. And she said that when you start a business, for 9 months, you need to make sure that you are at least focusing on that one thing, seeing the productivity and growth of that one thing in order to see it expand. Perfect example. The other day, I received my year-end wrap for my podcast. I hit 99% on the education percentiles for my podcast, meaning I was in the top tier. For education. Not 1%, 99%. And I had 3 top listeners, meaning they kept me on the number ones of their playlists. I'm not tracking my podcast. My coach has been telling me for the longest period of time, you're called to podcasting. I'm like, yeah. But I don't always. What she does in social media, I'm called to do in podcasting to a degree. But right now I'm in a reset season, so I'm just in that season. This is what we accomplished in this year. What are we setting up to accomplish next year? And when I say we, I'm talking about me and God. When my husband comes into this situation, he's going to be me, him, and God. But that spirit of fear wants you to focus on all of the things, false evidence appearing real, instead of the faith to stand on the things of the substance of the things that you have been hoping for. And understanding, even though you do not see the evidence, it's still en route. And be in expectancy for those things to come to pass. Because they are coming. A lot of us have been spiritually pushing away what's coming to us because we're spiritually in unbelief. I do believe would help my unbelief. Because it's a level of fear and intimidation. Because if we're too afraid to literally walk into and hope to walk into the very blessings God's saying, I won't give you that. I want to give you that. Let me give you that. But I can't give that to you until you believe and have more faith in it. But I do have faith. I'm praying about it every single time I pray. I'm doing this. I'm fasting for it. I'm this, that, and the other. Oh, you mean I don't have any faith? Your heart posture ain't there. Because the enemy is using intimidation to remind you every time your heart posture gets there. Oh, her heart posture is there for that thing. Let me remind her with a spirit of doubt. Well, if you're thinking that you're going to get married, let me show you something your husband's doing right now to make you feel like, should I be marrying this person? Oh, you're supposed to be a financier. She's getting in that mindset of a wealth builder. Let me show her that her bank account is in the negative, and then I'm going to drop something else that's going to make the negativity look stupid right now. Oh, she's expecting for family and kids, but she's being reminded of the fact that, oh, it was difficult for X, Y, and Z. Oh, you're supposed to be building a business. Where you gonna build a business if you ain't got the money nor the help or the assistance? You ain't got nothing right now. Spirit of fear, which in turn partners with the spirit of sabotage, which will make you slip into a level of what? Complacency. Go back and look at yesterday's word for complacency. To sit in that place of settlement that you're not going to move forward into the thing that I've called you to walk in. Oops. And you didn't even see it, did you? Well, you want me to finish that with this? I'm going to use this as an example. Last night I was watching a TV show. It was Law and Order, Organized Crime. What ended up happening is they were placed in a scenario where it was the team's last day, so they thought, to be working in that unit. And because it was the team's last day to work, or last case to work in this unit, they were supposed to be going to meet up with this major mob boss. One, God will place you in situations where you are literally out here protecting your enemy. It's like, what the heck am I doing? This is my enemy. Hold the hell up. But the reason that you're there to protect your enemy is because that enemy will become an ally if you protect them correctly. Okay? 2, what ended up happening is while they were there, they were isolated. What is one thing that makes you fearful if you're in isolation? There are things you have been putting your hands to. There are things that you have been operating in. There's been things that you were working on. And it seemed like it was isolated. What I just say about the audiences that you're supposed to be visible, but you're at isolation. The thing that you're doing has no reach right now. Your finances, they gone. You don't have none. Isolated finances. You are only operated on the allowances in which you have in that thing in which you're working on. Stability. You don't got no stability, and you're isolated in the place in which you're in, which ain't stable. Because you know that you're going to have to leave at some particular point in time, and the level of fear that comes with when that moment occurs. And we can go on and on with that. They were isolated. Next, could not get a signal on their phone. Where you are and where you have been, you have not been able to get communication out. You ain't been able to communicate with the people that can get you the finances in order to be the resources in order for you to be able to get what it is that you need to get done. You haven't been able to get in contact with the people that you're supposed to be in contact with in order for you to have the security of the house that you're supposed to move into, because you ain't been able to get in communication with those people. And even if you could, you don't have the finances. You're a business person, but your business ain't going nowhere because it seems like it's in a vacuum, whereas in isolated, and you can't get the viewership and visibility to it in order to increase your profits, in order for you to, okay? Isolated. No signal. Anybody else, or is it just me that have been dealing with signaling issues on their phone? My phone has been doing this thing. The phone that I use to get my internet for everything, it's been doing this thing where I'll turn the internet on, but the internet will turn to a completely different signal. And the signal channel that it turns to cuts my internet off every single time, which forces me to have to restart the internet all over again and the device all over again in order to connect to the right channel to be able to use the internet. Next, one's in there making the negotiations with the mob person. The other person is standing outside because that's the only place that she can get a signal. Now, she's supposed to be waiting on the DA to come and help them with making the negotiations with this particular guy. 2, the enemy will always send a counterfeit first. The DA that walked up in there, she was sitting there, and I was sitting there. The first thing that came to my mind was, yo, you're a cop. Why did you not ask for his credentials when he walked up to you? And you know you isolated. She ain't asking for no credentials. She said, oh, you're the DA? Okay, go. Only did she become concerned when the guy comes out the taxi and says, I'm the DA 5 minutes later. And she's like, wait, what? Let me see your credentials. And he's like, here. And she sees this legitimate badge. She's like, oh my God, I sent the wrong person up there. I ain't got no signal. She's like, I need you. Call 911. And it's like, oh, okay, I'll call. She's like, there's no signal out here. You're going to have to try to see if you can get a signal in order to call 911 because I sent the wrong person in there. The enemy in this season is sending false advocates to you. Oh, that was good. A false advocate for the very thing God's shown you that he wants you to do, because it's fear. Because if he sends the wrong person in first and it blows up in your face, little foxes, it's going to fall apart. She had to run in there and she trying to catch. Then she ends up, I don't know whether she got shot in the leg or when she stepped on a piece of wood, a splinter stabbed her in the leg. So she got a limp all the way up the steps to get, so it's slowing her down. The enemy is always going to set up booby traps to prevent you, because the second you get on to his schemes, he knows, oh snap, she on to me, he on to me. I got to set up a booby trap because I can't let them get to where they're trying to go, because if they get there, then that's going to screw up my whole plan. So she gets up there. Meanwhile, her partner's upstairs. And he already checked the guy's credentials because he was smart enough to check that guy's credentials, but he had a duplicate badge that looked legit. It looked just like the guy that came in second. So he's walking the guy to go back to where they are, but he knows something up because he said something to him. And when he said something to him, he was like, oh no, you ain't the right guy. And he tried to get away from him. He runs, goes, gets the other guy that he's supposed to be protecting, and they go and run into a hiding place. But the guy, he got a gun, because that guy had been watching his gun from the get-go. Your enemies are coming in. They be trying to come in to infiltrate what it is you're doing. For those of you that are in season, that was the other part, relationships. You're supposed to be involved in relationships and team building in this season. And because you're in relationship and team building in this season, you must watch out for the people around you that are coming to you to make sure that they are the ones that are supposed to be the ones you're aligned with in this season. Because they very well may be a counterfeit to what it is that's supposed to come in the door with you. Because you hire a counterfeit is going to slow you down and delay your progress. And you already been in isolation. You trying to get out. But even the butterfly, when it was in the isolation in its cocoon, had to fight its way out. You're going to have to fight through these people. And figure out with discernment the ones that are supposed to be with you. Because the enemy's going to send a counterfeit, whether he sends them before or after. And what the enemy tends to like to do is if you pick the right person, he tries to make the right person look wrong. How do I know? I've been attacked this way, and I've seen the people that I follow that I'm supposed to remain connected to, the times in which I feel like I need to become closer to them, the enemy brings out certain statements and comments to make me doubt whether I should be connected to that person or not. But God's already telling me, I'm like, God, he's like, stand still. And I'm like, but that's it. Stand still. For those of y'all waiting on marriage, if your husband says something left out his mouth, you're going to be like, oh, I got to go. He said something left. That was not godly. I got to go. Jesus. And God's like, where you going? You see that ring on your finger? You ain't going nowhere. You can't go nowhere. That's why the Lord's testing the relationships you got right now. And you be sitting there like, I'm ready to leave. Lord, I'm ready to go. I don't think I want to be here. And God's like, I have to test the relationships you're supposed to be in now in order to prepare you for the relationship I'm about to put you in. You gonna run from them? And I'm about to marry you to this person. Are you sure? Let me test the relationships you already got that I told you you're supposed to keep. Stand. But stand. But stand. Now, getting back to the episode, they're trying to outrun this guy. Now, this is the first person that shows up. They manage to pin the guy on one of the higher levels of the building. He tries to shoot the boss, but the male cop shoots him instead. And he ends up falling out the window. He falls out the window, and they're like, okay. But the team, they come in, and they're downstairs. They go and go to where the body is, and they come to find out, oh, look. One, this DA, which I'm like, why did y'all not bring the DA that was the real DA into the building with y'all? They left him outside hanging in the wind. Some people, I'm going to be honest with you. You need to pay attention to some people because there are people that are going to come into your fold. They have no idea the type of spiritual stuff that's going on in your atmosphere. And they're just out there. Don't leave them out there. Because when you leave them out there, you leave them open to the enemy getting to them. So, that's what happened. They went back in the building and came to find out they ended up becoming surrounded by a new set of enemies. You're going to a new level. You're elevating to a new thing. The more clarity that you get of the landscape of the promised land that you're going to be in, the enemy is going to start to try to surround you. Because the enemy cannot touch you for one season. But best believe the season that he's allowed to touch you in, he's setting up, monitoring, observing, and situating himself with all the people and the cavalry that he got to be like, oh, I got them. The second they're out of this season, oh, I got my sets of people on the outside of this thing that I'm ooh. So what it is they ended up going in, they ended up losing. I don't know how that guy ended up on the upper floor. I think they ended up taking him up there and leaving him. So the rest of their team had to go see if they could find him. But thankfully they had the tech person, and the tech person said go through the ducts. They went through the air duct that was between floors and found him in that level. You don't leave a man behind. Don't leave a man behind. For one, that man, remember the story of David, where David, the enemy actually left one of their people behind, and David's camp healed the person. And when they healed the person, that person ended up becoming an ally to them and told them all their business. But because these are one of your people, you leave them behind if you want to, because the enemy is either going to kill them or try to flip them. Don't do it. And if you know that person could become a Judas to you, honey, don't leave them behind. So I'm coming to the end of this, and I'm going to see if I can try to finish what I'm stating. So they end up on camera and they come together. They're like, look, they're coming up here. We don't know how we're going to get out of here. We got the cavalry that we don't even know if they coming. But what happened is one of the cops, because they had no signal, took one of the people's phones, and they were on the roof, and they were like, maybe we can get a signal up here. It's like, no, we can't get a signal up here. He said what he did was he took the phone, and you thought he just threw it. And he's like, the guy was like, that was my wife's phone. My wife gave it to me for my birthday present. And he was like, I'll get you another one. But they were in there, got cornered, and they were like, if we going out together. We a family up in here. Yes. The people that you keep around you in the season of growth, they best to be close as family. And I ain't talking about blood family, because sometimes blood may be thicker than water, but they be the first ones that will stab you in the back and make you bleed. I'm talking about the one that God gave you, meaning they tight, they your corner, they your inspiration, they your spiritual family. The ones that will cover you, y'all back to back, shoulder to shoulder, in the midst of the fight for what God has given you. And y'all gonna elevate together. Yeah. When the cavalry comes, because the cavalry came and got them. When the cavalry came and got them, they were able to get out. God don't play about you. He's coming for you. Don't worry about the spirits of fear. God's about to turn judgment in your favor.